The Republic of Genoa was a maritime republic from the 11th century to 1797 in Liguria on the northwestern Italian coast. It was a medieval and early modern maritime republic. During the late Middle Ages, it was a major commercial power in both the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea. It was one of the major financial centers in Europe between the 16th and 17th centuries. The Genoese Republic established numerous colonies throughout the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. These included Corsica from 1347 to 1768, Monaco, southern Crimea from 1266 to 1475, and the islands of Lesbos and Chios from the 14th century to 1462 and 1566, respectively. The arrival of the early modern period saw the Republic lose many of its colonies. It had no choice but to shift its interests and focus on banking. This decision proved to be a resounding success for Genoa, which remained one of the most prominent hubs of capitalism, boasting highly developed banks and trading companies. Genoa was known as La Superba, the superb one, La Dominante, the dominant one, La Dominante dei Mari, the dominant of the seas, and La Repubblica dei Magnifici, the Republic of the Magnificents. From the 11th century to 1528, it was officially known as the Compagnia Communis Ianuensis. From 1580, it was known as the Serenissima Repubblica de Zena, Most Serene Republic of Genoa. From 1339 until the state's extinction in 1797, the ruler of the republic was the Doge. Originally elected for life, after 1528, the Doge was elected for terms of 2 years. However, the reality was that the republic was an oligarchy ruled by a small group of merchant families from whom the Doges were selected. The Genoese navy was the foundation of the republic's wealth and power for centuries. Its importance was unquestionable throughout Europe. Its legacy as a key factor in the triumph of the Genoese Republic is still recognized to this day, and its coat of arms is depicted in the flag of the Italian Navy. In 1284, Genoa decisively defeated the Republic of Pisa in the Battle of Meloria, establishing its dominance over the Tyrrhenian Sea. It was Genoa's eternal rival, the Republic of Venice, that it faced in the Mediterranean Sea. The Republic began when Genoa became a self-governing commune in the 11th century and ended when it was conquered by the French First Republic under Napoleon and replaced with the Ligurian Republic. The Ligurian Republic was annexed by the First French Empire in 1805. Its restoration was briefly proclaimed in 1814 following the defeat of Napoleon, but it was ultimately annexed by the Kingdom of Sardinia in 1815. Prologue. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the city of Genoa was invaded by Germanic tribes, and in about 643, Genoa and other Ligurian cities were captured by the Lombard kingdom under King Rothari. In 773, the kingdom was annexed by the Frankish Empire. The first Carolingian count of Genoa was Admiral, who was given the title Praefectus Civitatis Genuensis. During this time and in the following century, Genoa was little more than a small center, but it was building its merchant fleet, which was to become the leading commercial carrier of the Western Mediterranean. In 934–35, the town was thoroughly sacked and burned by a Fatimid fleet under Yaqub ibn Ishaq al-Tamimi. This has led to a discussion about whether early 10th century Genoa was hardly more than a fishing village, or a vibrant trading town worth attacking. In 958, Berengar II of Italy granted the city of Genoa full legal freedom and guaranteed the possession of its lands in the form of landed lordships. In the late 11th century, the municipality adopted a constitution at a meeting of the city's trade associations, compagnies, and the lords of the surrounding valleys and coasts. The new city-state was called a Compagnia Communis. The local organization remained politically and socially significant for centuries. As late as 1382, the members of the Grand Council were classified by both the companion to which they belonged as well as by their political faction, noble versus popular. Early development: Pisan Genoese expeditions to Sardinia. In 1015, and again in 1016, forces from the Taifa of Denia, in the east of Muslim Spain, Al-Andalus, attacked Sardinia and attempted to establish control over it. In both these years, joint expeditions from the maritime republics of Pisa and Genoa successfully repelled the invaders. These Pisan Genoese expeditions to Sardinia were approved and supported by the papacy, and modern historians are right to see them as proto-crusades. After their victory, the Italian cities turned on each other, and the Pisans obtained hegemony over the island at the expense of their erstwhile ally. This is why the primary sources for the expedition are from Pisa. The city celebrated its double victory over the Muslims and the Genoese with an inscription on the walls of its Duomo. Conflict with the Fatimids. The Mahdiya campaign of 1087 was a raid on the North African town of Mahdiya by armed ships from the northern Italian maritime republics of Genoa and Pisa. Mahdiya was the capital of Ifriqiya under the Fatimids. Its proximity to the sea allowed the Fatimids to conduct naval raids and expeditions, including the raid on Genoa in 935. The raid was the result of the actions of the Zirid ruler Tamim ibn Muiz, reigned 1062-1108, as a pirate in waters off the Italian peninsula, along with his involvement in Sicily fighting the Norman invasion. In this context, Tamim had ravaged the Calabrian coast in 1074, taking many slaves in the process, and captured Mazzara in Sicily in 1075, before negotiating a truce with Roger that ended Tamim's support for the emirs of Sicily. These campaigns and raids by other Arab pirates threatened the growing economic interests of the Italian maritime republics and provided the motivation for attacking the Zirid stronghold. This led the Pisans to take military action before Mahdiya, seizing Beaune in 1034 and aiding the Norman conquest of Sicily in 1063. Crusades and maritime expansion. Rise of the Genoese Republic. Genoa expanded rapidly during the First Crusade. At the time, the city had a population of approximately 10,000. 12 galleys, 1 ship, and 2,200 soldiers from Genoa joined the crusade without question. In July 1097, the Genoese troops, led by noblemen de Insula and Avocado, set sail. The Genoese fleet transported and provided naval support to the Crusaders, mainly during the siege of Antioch in 1098. The Genoese fleet blockaded the city while the troops provided support during the siege. In the siege of Jerusalem in 1099, Genoese crossbowmen led by Guglielmo Embriaco played a pivotal role in the defense of the city. The Republic's role as a maritime power in the Mediterranean region guaranteed Genoese merchants favorable commercial treaties. They controlled a significant portion of the Byzantine Empire's trade, including Tripoli, Libya, the Principality of Antioch, Cilician Armenia, and Egypt. Genoa maintained free trading rights in Egypt and Syria, but lost some of its territorial possessions after Saladin's campaigns in those areas in the late 12th century. Maritime power Genoa was the dominant naval force in the Western Mediterranean over the course of the 11th and 12th centuries. Pisa and Amalfi declined in importance as Genoa rose to prominence. Genoa, along with Venice, was the dominant force in the Mediterranean slave trade at this time. After the capture of Antioch on 3rd May 1098, Genoa forged an alliance with Bohemond of Taranto, who became the ruler of the Principality of Antioch. He granted them a headquarters, the Church of San Giovanni, and 30 houses in Antioch as a result. On 6th May 1098, a part of the Genoese army returned to Genoa with the relics of St. John the Baptist. This was granted to the Republic of Genoa as part of their reward for providing military support to the First Crusade. Genoa also received many settlements in the Middle East and favorable commercial treaties. Genoa forged an alliance with King Baldwin I of Jerusalem, reigned 1100-1118. Baldwin gave Genoa 1/3 of the lordship of Arsuf, 1/3 of Caesarea, and 1/3 of Acre and its port's income to secure the alliance. Furthermore, the Republic of Genoa would receive 300 bezants annually, and one-third of Baldwin's conquest upon the joining of 50 or more Genoese soldiers to his troops. The Republic's role as a maritime power in the region secured many favorable commercial treaties for Genoese merchants. They controlled a large portion of the trade of the Byzantine Empire, Tripoli, Libya, the Principality of Antioch, Cilician Armenia, and Egypt. However, not all of Genoa's merchandise was so innocuous. Medieval Genoa became a major player in the slave trade. Genoa maintained free trading rights in Egypt and Syria, but lost some of its territorial possessions after Saladin's campaigns in those areas in the late 12th century. Venetian Rivalry. The commercial and cultural rivalry between Genoa and Venice was a defining feature of the 13th century. The Republic of Venice played a significant role in the Fourth Crusade, diverting Latin energies to the ruin of its former patron and present trading rival Constantinople. This meant that Venetian support of the newly established Latin Empire meant that Venetian trading rights were enforced, and Venice gained control of a large portion of the commerce of the Eastern Mediterranean. In order to regain control of the commerce, the Republic of Genoa allied with Michael VIII Palaiologos, Emperor of Nicaea, who was determined to restore the Byzantine Empire by recapturing Constantinople. In March 1261, the Treaty of the Alliance was signed in Nymphium. On 25 July 1261, Nicaean troops under Alexios Strategopoulos recaptured Constantinople. This resulted in a clear shift in favor of Genoa, who were granted free trade rights in the Nicene Empire. Genoa also gained control of commerce and a number of ports and way stations on islands and in Aegean settlements. Genoa took control of the islands of Chios and Lesbos, as well as the city of Smyrna, Izmir, as commercial stations. The Genoese-Mongol Wars were a series of conflicts fought between the Republic of Genoa, the Mongol Empire, and its successor states, most notably the Golden Horde and Crimean Khanate. The wars were fought over control of trade and political influence in the Black Sea and Crimean Peninsula during the 13th, 14th, and 15th centuries. The Republic of Genoa and the Mongol Empire began interacting in the early 13th century as the Mongol invasion of Europe pushed further west. The Mongol invasions of Kievan Rus, Cumania, and Bulgaria in the 1240s established Mongol control of the Crimean Peninsula, allowing the empire to exert influence in the Black Sea. Genoa, an Italian city-state already controlling a trading empire in the Mediterranean, was eager to expand its trading power in the region. Genoese merchants had been active in the Black Sea since the mid-13th century. This was spurred on by the signing of the Treaty of Nymphium in 1261 and the Byzantine recapture of Constantinople. Genoa took full advantage of its treaty with the Byzantine Empire and its client states, establishing a number of trading colonies, Gazaria, in the Black Sea, Crimean Peninsula, Anatolia, and Romania. Kaffa was the most notable of these colonies. It was the hub of Genoese trade with the Near East. The First Venetian-Genoese War, the War of St. Sabas, 1256-1270, was a conflict between Genoa and Venice over control of Acre in the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Genoa was aided by Philip of Montfort, Lord of Tyre, John of Arsuf, and the Knights Hospitaller, while Venice was aided by the Count of Jaffa and Ascalon, John of Ibelin, and the Knights Templar. War with Pisa. Genoa and Pisa were the only states with trading rights in the Black Sea. In the same century, the Republic conquered many settlements in Crimea, establishing the Genoese colony of Kaffa. The alliance with the restored Byzantine Empire increased Genoa's wealth and power, while simultaneously decreasing Venetian and Pisan commerce. The Byzantine Empire had granted the majority of free trading rights to Genoa. In 1282, Pisa attempted to seize control of Corsica's commerce and administration after Judge Sinucello revolted against Genoa and called for their support. In August 1282, the Genoese fleet blockaded Pisan commerce near the river Arno. In 1283, both Genoa and Pisa made preparations for war. Genoa built 120 galleys, 60 of which were owned by the Republic, while the other 60 were rented to individuals. Over 15,000 mercenaries were hired as rowmen and soldiers. The Pisan fleet avoided combat and succeeded in wearing out the Genoese fleet during 1283. On 5th August 1284, the Genoese fleet, consisting of 93 ships led by Andrea Doria and Benedetto III Zaccaria, defeated the Pisan fleet, which consisted of 72 ships and was led by Albertino Morosini and Ugolino della Gherardesca in the naval battle of Meloria. Genoa captured 30 Pisan ships and sank 7. The battle resulted in the deaths of approximately 8,000 Pisans, representing more than half of the Pisan troops, which numbered around 14,000. The defeat of Pisa was a decisive blow to its maritime ambitions, and Genoa seized control of Corsica's commerce as a result. The Sardinian town of Sassari, which was under Pisan control, became a commune or self-styled free municipality, which was controlled by Genoa. However, control of Sardinia did not pass permanently to Genoa. The Aragonese kings of Naples disputed control and did not secure it until the 15th century. The Golden Age of Commerce and Power. Second Venetian-Genoese War. The War of Curzola was fought between the Republic of Venice and the Republic of Genoa. The two Italian republics were at odds with each other, and the conflict was the result. Genoa and Venice were both looking for ways to increase their dominance in the eastern Mediterranean and Black Sea, and they were spurred largely by a need for action following the commercially devastating fall of Acre. Once the truce between the republics expired, Genoese ships began to harass Venetian merchants in the Aegean Sea. In 1295, Genoese raids on the Venetian quarter in Constantinople were the final straw. The Venetians declared war on Genoa that same year. The Byzantine Empire's support for the Genoese in the conflict was a direct result of the Fourth Crusade, which saw a steep decline in relations between the two. The Byzantines joined the war on the Genoan side. The Venetians made swift advances into the Aegean and Black Seas, but the Genoans dominated the war. They finally bested the Venetians in the Battle of Curzola in 1298, and a truce was signed the next year. The Black Death arrived in Sicily in October 1347. Carried by 12 Genoese galleys, the disease spread rapidly all over the island. Galleys from Caffa reached Genoa and Venice in January 1348, but it was the outbreak in Pisa a few weeks later that marked the entry point to northern Italy. By the end of January, one of the galleys expelled from Italy had arrived in Marseille. From Italy, the disease spread northwest across Europe, striking France, Spain. The epidemic began to wreak havoc first on the crown of Aragon in the spring of 1348, Portugal and England by June 1348. It then spread east and north through Germany, Scotland, and Scandinavia from 1348 to 1350. The disease was introduced into Norway in 1349 when a ship landed at Askøy. It then spread to Bjørgvin, modern Bergen, and Iceland. Finally, it spread to northwestern Russia in 1351. It is clear that plague was somewhat less common in parts of Europe with less developed trade with their neighbors. This included the majority of the Basque country, isolated parts of Belgium and the Netherlands, and isolated alpine villages throughout the continent. Byzantine Genoese War. The Genoese held the colony of Galata, a suburb of Constantinople across the Golden Horn, as part of the Treaty of Nymphium of 1261. This agreement established trade relations between the two powers and granted Genoa extensive privileges within the empire, including the right to collect customs dues at Galata. The Byzantine Empire was still reeling from the civil war of 1341 to 1347, and these concessions made a recovery difficult. Constantinople collected only 13% of all custom dues from shipping passing through the Bosphorus, with the rest going to Genoa. The Byzantine-Genoese War of 1348-1349 was fought over control of the Bosphorus custom dues. The Byzantines were determined to break their dependence on the Genoese merchants of Galata for food and maritime commerce, and to rebuild their own naval power. However, their newly constructed navy was captured by the Genoese, and a peace agreement was concluded. The Byzantines' failure to expel the Genoese from Galata meant that they could never restore their sea power. They were henceforth dependent on either Genoa or Venice for naval aid. In 1350, the Byzantines allied themselves with the Republic of Venice, which was also at war with Genoa. However, the Byzantines were forced to settle the conflict in a compromise peace in May 1352, as Galata remained defiant. The Third Venetian-Genoese War was a conflict that had to be fought. The War of the Straits, 1350-1355, was the third conflict in the series of Venetian-Genoese wars. There were three clear reasons for the war: Genoese dominance over the Black Sea, the capture of Chios and Phocaea by Genoa, and the Latin War, which caused the Byzantine Empire to lose control of the Black Sea, making it more difficult for the Venetians to reach Asian ports. The decline of the Republic. The two maritime powers, Genoa and Venice, had long been the dominant commercial powers with ties to Constantinople that had nurtured their growth during the early Middle Ages. Their rivalry over trade with the Levant had led to a number of wars. Genoa had suffered previous defeats at the hands of the Venetians, but emerged from submission to the Visconti tyrants of Milan during the 14th century. It had also been severely weakened by the Black Death of 1348, which took a toll of 40,000 on the city. Venice played a key role in the dismemberment of the Byzantine Empire in 1204, gradually taking over land on the Adriatic and entering into conflict with Hungary. On the Italian mainland, its terrestrial acquisition generated a rivalry with the nearby largest city, Padua. Genoa was determined to establish a complete monopoly of trade in the Black Sea area, including grain, timber, fur, and slaves. To achieve this, it was essential to neutralize the commercial threat posed by Venice in this region. Genoa was compelled to initiate the conflict because of the collapse of the Mongol hegemony over the Central Asian trade route, which had hitherto been a significant source of wealth for Genoa. When the Mongols lost control of the area, trade became much more hazardous and far less profitable. Genoa was determined to go to war to ensure its trade in the Black Sea area remained under its control. The War of Chioggia had mixed results. Venice and her allies emerged victorious from the war against their Italian rivals, but were ultimately defeated by King Louis the Great of Hungary. This resulted in the Hungarian conquest of Dalmatian cities. Political instability and decline French domination. In 1396, the Doge of Genoa, Antoniotto Adorno, made Charles VI of France the Defensor del Comune, defender of the municipality, of Genoa, to protect the Republic from internal unrest and the provocations of the Duke of Orléans and the former Duke of Milan. Although the Republic had previously been under partial foreign control, this marked the first time Genoa was dominated by a foreign power. Golden Age of Genoese bankers. In the 15th century, two of the earliest banks in the world were founded in Genoa. The Bank of St. George, founded in 1407, which was the oldest state deposit bank in the world at its closure in 1805, and the Banca Carige, founded in 1483 as a mount of piety, which still exists. In 1458, the Doge of Genoa handed the Republic over to the French, making it the Duchy of Genoa under the control of John of Anjou, a French royal governor. This was in response to the threat posed by Alfonso Fèvre of Aragon. However, Genoa revolted, and the Republic was restored in 1461 with the support of Milan. The Milanese then changed sides and conquered Genoa in 1464, holding it as a fief of the French crown. From 1463 to 1478, and from 1488 to 1499, Genoa was held by the Milanese House of Sforza. From 1499 to 1528, the Republic reached its nadir, with the French occupying the city almost continuously. The Spanish, with their allies, the old nobility entrenched in the mountain fastnesses behind Genoa, captured the city on 30th of May, 1522, and subjected it to a pillage. When the Admiral Andrea Doria of the powerful Doria family allied with the Emperor Charles V to oust the French and restore Genoa's independence, a renewed prospect opened. In 1528, Genoese banks made the first loan to Charles. The economic recovery that followed saw many aristocratic Genoese families, including the Balbi, Doria, Grimaldi, Pallavicini, and Serra, amass tremendous fortunes. Genoa's practices in the Mediterranean, including chattel slavery, were crucial in the exploration and exploitation of the New World, as Felipe Fernandez Armesto and others have argued. Renaissance in Genoa. Genoa was at the height of its power in the 16th century, attracting many artists, including Rubens, Caravaggio, and Van Dyck. The architect Galeazzo Alessi, 1512-1572, designed many of the city's splendid palazzi, as did Bartolomeo Bianco, 1590-1657, 50 years later, designer of the centerpieces of the University of Genoa. A number of Genoese Baroque and Rococo artists settled elsewhere, while a number of local artists became prominent. Genoa and the New World. From about 1520, the Genoese controlled the port of Panama, the first port on the Pacific founded by the conquest of the Americas. The Genoese obtained a concession to exploit the port mainly for the slave trade of the New World on the Pacific until the destruction of the primeval city in 1671. French and Spanish dominance. Genoa and the Spanish Empire. Genoa then experienced a revival as a junior associate of the Spanish Empire, with Genoese bankers financing many of the Spanish crown's foreign endeavors from their counting houses in Seville. Fernand Braudel has even called the period 1557 to 1627 the Age of the Genoese. It was a time of discreet and sophisticated rule that historians failed to notice for a long time. The modern visitor passing brilliant Mannerist and Baroque palazzo facades along Genoa's Strade Nuove, now Via Garibaldi or Via Balbi, cannot fail to notice that there was conspicuous wealth. This was not Genoese, but concentrated in the hands of a tightly knit circle of banker financiers, true venture capitalists. Genoa's trade remained dependent on control of the Mediterranean sea lanes, and the loss of Chios to the Ottoman Empire, 1566, was a severe blow. The Genoese banking consortium seized the opportunity presented by the state bankruptcy of Philip II in 1557. This threw the German banking houses into chaos and ended the reign of the Fuggers as Spanish financiers. The Genoese bankers provided the unwieldy Habsburg system with fluid credit and a dependably regular income. In return, the less dependable shipments of American silver were rapidly transferred from Seville to Genoa, providing capital for further ventures. The relief of Genoa took place between 28 of March 1625 and 24 April 1625 during the 30 Years' War. Spain launched a major naval expedition against the French-occupied Republic of Genoa, with the capital Genoa under siege by a joint Franco-Savoyard army of 30,000 men and 3,000 cavalry. In 1625, when the Republic of Genoa, traditionally an ally of Spain, was occupied by French troops of the Duke of Savoy, the city endured a brutal siege. In Genoese governmental circles, it was known that the Dutch government had offered their help to the Franco-Savoyan army so that they could hit the bank of the King of Spain. However, the Spanish fleet, commanded by General Álvaro de Bazan, Marquis of Santa Cruz, came to the aid of Genoa and relieved the city. The Spanish forces returned sovereignty to the Republic of Genoa and forced the French to lift the siege. They then launched a joint campaign against the Franco-Savoyan forces that had overrun the Genoese Republic the previous year. The Franco-Piedmontese army was forced to leave Liguria and Spanish troops invaded Piedmont, thereby securing the Spanish road. Richelieu's invasion of Genoa, and the Valtelline resulted in his humiliation at the hands of the Spaniards. Spanish bankruptcies. Ambrogio Spinola, Marquess of Los Balbases, was a Genoese banker who raised and led an army that fought in the 80 Years' War in the Netherlands in the early 17th century. Spain's decline in the 17th century was matched by Genoa's own decline. The Spanish crown's frequent bankruptcies, in particular, ruined many of Genoa's merchant houses. In 1684, the city was subjected to a punitive bombardment by a French fleet in retaliation for its alliance with Spain. The Naples plague refers to a plague epidemic in Italy between 1656–1658 that nearly eradicated the population of Naples. In Genoa, the epidemic killed approximately 60,000 people, accounting for 60% of the local population. On 26 June 1745, the Republic of Genoa declared war on the Kingdom of Sardinia. This decision proved disastrous for Genoa. The city surrendered to the Austrians in September 1746 and was briefly occupied before a revolt liberated the city 2 months later. In 1747, the Austrians returned and, with a contingent of Sardinian forces, laid siege to Genoa. However, they were driven off by the approach of a Franco-Spanish army. Genoa retained its lands in the Peace of Aix-la-Chapelle, but was unable to keep its hold on Corsica in its weakened state. In 1755, the Corsican Republic was declared after the Genoese were driven out. Eventually, Genoa was forced to cede Corsica to the French in the 1768 Treaty of Versailles after relying on French intervention to quash the rebellion. In 1794 and 1795, the revolutionary echoes from France reached Genoa. This was thanks to Genoese propagandists and refugees sheltered in the nearby state of the Alps. In 1794, a conspiracy against the aristocratic and oligarchic ruling class was already waiting for it in the Genoese palaces of power. However, it was in May 1797 that the Genoese Jacobins and French citizens made their intention to overthrow the government of the Doge Giacomo Maria Brignoli clear. This led to a fratricidal war in the streets between opponents and supporters of the current customs system. Napoleon's direct intervention in Genoa during the 1796 campaigns was the final act that led to the fall of the Republic in early June. He overthrew the old elites that had ruled the state for all of its history, giving birth to the Ligurian Republic on 14th of June 1797 under the watchful care of Napoleonic France. After Bonaparte seized power in France, a more conservative constitution was enacted. But the Ligurian Republic's life was short. In 1805, it was annexed by France, becoming the Département of Apennines, Gênes, and Montenotte.
We offer you deep historical information from history on YouTube channel. Subscribe. Now don't forget to turn on notifications.